Okay, I think we're here. It seems I'm live and it's lovely to be here with you. So let's just see who's here. Hello, hello. So good to see you. And welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. I'm I'm pretty sure you're seeing me. So if not, do tell me if you're not seeing my image, but I see myself. So I'm at least talking to myself. Yes, thank you for that. Excellent. Lovely to have you all here. Thanks a lot. Hello, hello, everybody. Really nice. It's such a lovely week coming, especially the next week ahead, but it's already a really great week this week. So I thought it would be really fun to do this. And I'm just going to try and pick up my screen share, which I may have lost somewhere along the way on Zoom. I got to figure out where my Zoom went. Hang on. As you remember, I'm not very techy. So here we go. I'm going to jump right into sharing my screen. And we're going to have a look at the chart together because there's some really lovely things coming up that I want to just really briefly outline, and then we will jump into your chart and see how that shows up. There we go. Now I hope you are seeing, voila, now I hope you're seeing the screen share here. I'm using two computers, so I'm going to keep, hey, Annick. Dag. I'm also in Belgium. I'm freezing cold. I'm officially a Spaniard now because I cannot tolerate this gray cold at the end of May. So yeah, I'm wrapped up in a blanket from the waist down. I'm also wearing yellow. I don't know if you can tell that, but I'm wearing yellow for Jupiter, which is kind of what we're all about today. And yellow is the color of Jupiter and Guru, our teacher. And so just as we're starting here, I just set that to the very start time. This will move around as I talk. Hi, everybody. So lovely to have you here. I just want to point out that Jupiter is in its house of its joy, and so is the sun. It's in the ninth house. So we just happen to have at this particular moment a Libra rising. And that gives us Jupiter in the ninth. And that's a really lovely place for Jupiter to be. I also just had a client who had this configuration, so it was really fun to go through what's going on in her life and to see how that's going to pan out for the year ahead. Now, as you may already know, we've got Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun now in the sign of Gemini. Jupiter moved in on Sunday, Venus and the Sun moved in last week. And very soon, in a couple of days, I'll just move quickly through the days and we can see how things are changing. We've got a conjunction between Mercury and Uranus, and then an approaching conjunction between Venus and the Sun. And let me just back up a day to find, hello, to find Chiron and Mars conjunct each other. And they're at this point that was quite sensitive around the time of the eclipses. So we're looking at an energy that is perhaps with reference in your life to something that was going on in late March or April, where we've got quite a lot of activity in that around that 19, 20, 21 degree point, and it's still very close. That Chiron and Mars are picking up on something that we needed to maybe to re-explore at this time. So lots and lots of insight with the Mercury Uranus. And this is insight that is based on perhaps what we've learned from all these other conjunctions that came through, because Venus met up with Uranus at the 23rd degree and Mercury is meeting up with Uranus at just about the same time. So just the beginning of the 24th degree of Taurus. And we also then have the Venus Sun perfecting on the 4th, but it really is conjoined over many, many days, because this is, you might be aware, it's a Venus star point, or you could call it the flower, that beautiful symbol that's Venus's shape as she moves in this dynamic relationship between the Earth and the Sun throughout her 8-year cycle. And when we see Venus at the outer conjunction, or what's called the superior conjunction, it lasts for about 3 or 4 days, which is quite lovely. And the inferior conjunction that we had in Leo last August, I think it was around 20 22 Leo. I can't remember exactly, but it was in the sign of Leo. And that only lasted one fleeting moment. So that's because it's the interior or inferior conjunction, not because it's less helpful, but because it's inferior in the sense of in relationship to the Earth and the Sun. It's closer to the Earth, and here she is closer to the Sun. So very interesting times indeed. We now, by the time Venus and the Sun are perfecting their conjunction, which remember lasts all of next week, a really lovely new start around Venus at this time. We have then Mercury moving in. Mercury rules Gemini, and it's there with Jupiter, which is going to be in Gemini from the 26th of May all the way through the 9th of June of 2025. So we're really in I think, one of the most constructive times of the year. We have a trine to Pluto, from Pluto to Jupiter, and of course we have to include any of those planets that are emerging through any of the air signs from now on, as soon as a planet goes in, but especially right now, Mercury and Jupiter and trining Pluto. That will be exact actually on the Sunday, so the 2nd of June. So it's really lots and lots of activity this week. I think they're going to end up blending in, unless you've got a sensitive point in your chart, they're going to end up blending in from one to another because it's so much going on, one thing after another in the chart. We do have also a new moon, and that new moon energy is coming up on the 6th and 7th of June. And when we have this new moon, Venus will be involved. And so I don't have the actual chart. I'm not going to do that. It's the end of the day for me. It's enough to do this. So I won't pull up the actual new moon chart, but it's at 16 degrees along with Venus. And so that brings it quickly into a square. So as the planets are all fast moving at this point, Sun, Venus, and Moon, they will very quickly square Saturn, which is almost at 19 degrees. And that 19-degree point will be active all through June and into July, because Saturn is slowing down, and it's going to hang at 19 degrees where it will station retrograde at the end of June. The end of June, by the way, is when we see Venus again. She reappears in the sky as a morning star at the end of June. And in fact, if we back up a wee bit, we're going to see Jupiter emerge, because now at this point on the 4th of June, we have enough distance between Jupiter and the Sun. So remember, when a planet is too close to the Sun, it's called burnt, or it's just under the beams of the Sun. We don't see it because the Sun is so brilliant. And so we're now able to see Jupiter separate from the Sun as of the 4th of June, and that's considered also a significant rebirth moment. So we've had the Jupiter-Sun rebirthing process that already took place late in May. So we had that in the 3rd week of May. And now we're really just rolling forward into Gemini with all this new energy. It's light, it's fluffy, it's social, and it's quite pleasant. And I have Jupiter in Gemini, so I quite like this. It's a little bit of air for the very, very heavy water chart that I have. It helps me to keep things light and bubbly. So let's have a look. I'm going to maybe take a random date and time here from the list. Thanks so much for all of you being here. Would you be so kind also to like the video? Because as I am a bit kind of small potatoes here on YouTube, and also I don't monetize my channel, so I kind of not quite shadow banned, but I'm not really pushed to the front. But I just can't bear the thought of earning money from Google. So I'm trying to find somebody who said it was their birthday. Evelyn, it's your birthday. So I think I can't really resist that, because it's a lovely then solar return, and you'll get to see having a sense of a solar return chart as well. So let's just pull up the transits there. We'll go for now, and then we will create a new chart for Evelyn. So yeah, and I really do need you to be present. So I hope if I pick your chart out of the list here, I'll need you to be present, because otherwise I feel like I'm kind of talking into a vacuum. So I'd like to just know if I'm kind of on the mark or not. And also, please keep in mind that it's confusing. Now Evelyn's born on the 28th of May, so it's no problem at all to understand which is the month and which is the date, but sometimes it can be confusing. So please make sure you spell the month. Utuado. I don't know Puerto Rico so well, so I don't know that name. And if we got a time, 9:45 a.m. Thanks for saying a.m. because I need to hear that too. Otherwise, we can get all kinds of crazy things happening. And Utuado is new to me. I've never heard that town before. And Puerto Rico. I don't know if I have to say, do I say Puerto Rico or do I have to say the states? I don't know. We'll find out. And let's have a look at what that gives us here. No, it's not taking it. Let me just see. Am I making a mistake? Yes, it's me. Puerto Rico. So it says Puerto Rico, USA. Here we go. Calculate that. And let's see. I'm hoping this is correct. So 28th of May, 68. Utuado at 9:45 a.m. Righty-ho, look at this. This is quite lovely. So we have Venus. So this was also coming up to the Venus star point in 1968. Hey, kids. So this is how lovely then. You're getting a Venus star point around the same time as you had Venus and the sun together on your birthday. And today, as a bonus, you get Jupiter. And now you have this also in a sextile to Chiron, and you've got a very strong sextile building with Neptune as well. And next year with Saturn and Neptune, you have a trine from Jupiter by transit to Pluto, and Pluto is trining your Venus. And that will take a while before it gets to the sun, but let's say in like 2026 or 7, you'll start to really feel that building. 26, probably just starting to feel that Pluto trine to the sun. So that's a big shift in terms of your sense of identity or maybe your career, how you operate through your career. Pluto is also in a sextile to Chiron. So that changes a lot of things. It kind of feels like life can be very wobbly when Pluto is sextiling Chiron. Things can feel that they're changing really rapidly, really fast, and what you might consider to be a safer foundation or familiar foundation is rocking your boat a little bit. Look at this chart, really from 1968, it's really coming back to what is this, 56 years later, to really, really repeat some patterns here. We've got the North Node, you've just had your nodal return. That would have been quite strong in February, March, April. And we also have the Chiron and Mars on your Saturn. So you're going through quite a lot of shifting here. That itself creates a sextile to your moon as well. So it looks like you could be moving or you have a plan to go in a new direction. This energy is really pulling from this sense of what is my purpose, and it feels like it needs to change. New goals with Mars there, maybe a sense of not fulfilling the original goal. You have Saturn there on the North Node, and Saturn is considered in its fall in Aries because it's very exalted, it's very happy in Libra. So there can be some issues around self-esteem and around your identity, or this can be around the relationship with the father as well, especially with that Chiron there. It's coming from early childhood feelings of not being appreciated. Now with Mars Chiron there, you're needing to take action in a way that allows you to be responsible for your sense of your higher purpose, where perhaps up until this point, it may have been like you were taking orders in a way from your family or from authority figures. Now it's time to really light your own path. So we in March, April, this would have been the point of the eclipses as well. So this is really a very big feature of the year for you, that Saturn. Jupiter is adding a lot of positivity. It brings friends and friends from in high places. Jupiter in the 11th is fantastic because it helps you to get support from people who can bring you support. I'm just going to check to see if we've got if you're here in the chat with us, so I can be sure that I'm not spewing nonsense. I have Neptune on my Mercury, so watch out. And I'm also having I'm right in the thick of my Saturn return as well. So yeah, just give me a little heads up if you are there. Hi, Evelyn, you are there. You'll visit this summer. Now I missed something there. Moving perhaps to Europe. Hey, there you go. Yeah, this would be a great way of using this because there's a lot of enthusiasm for the future. You're creating a whole new vision for your life. And oh, wait, I just saw something here. Hang on, hang on, hang on. I have to change something because I've just recognized I've made a mistake. It jumped for some reason. It went from Puerto Rico to the United Kingdom. So before we get too excited about what I'm saying here, I need to double check this, okay? There we go. I don't know how that happened. How on earth did that go from Puerto Rico to, let's see, how much does that change? There we go. No, it's exactly the same. What on earth is going on there? All right, so here we go. We're back on track. It's all fine. I just saw United Kingdom there. I don't know if some of you else, maybe that's the Neptune on Mercury. Bear with me. Oh, your father just passed. So I'm so sorry to hear that. Okay, yeah, that would be again that very strong signal from Saturn, right? Where the North Node would have crossed your Saturn in December, January. A big shift in relationship. And that's in a sextile to your moon, so your emotional, the emotional impact of that as well would have been part of that story. Yeah, so I do see quite a lot of optimism here. It's a fantastic chart for a solar return. You do have Saturn in a square to the moon during this Saturn return. I don't mean for that to sound too dramatic, but it does mean that there can be some challenges or a feeling of isolation, and that can be related to home and moving. So if you're moving, of course, that's natural. It takes a while to build up a new sense of community, but that is supported by all of this energy that's super social and positive in the 11th house. And Saturn is in the 8th house of death as well, endings, or in a sense of deep transition through crisis. Saturn is in Jupiter ruled Pisces, and it has been there since March of last year. So perhaps you already knew, perhaps you knew your father was going to pass. And then Saturn also stationed retrograde in a square to your sun, and the sun does represent the father in the natal chart. So that could have been a long period of convalescence, and and so maybe that was something that you were prepared for, knowing that there would be a passing here, and perhaps this Chiron now with Mars and then passing over that Saturn again. It might be an opportunity to grieve a little bit and to really find whatever needs to be healed in that relationship, because it's a whole new cycle. The ninth house also represents fathers in general. And with Saturn in there and Chiron too, there may have been some distance with the father. There may have been something, maybe he had to work somewhere, or he wasn't somehow very accessible. For whatever reason. And so I think we'll call it a very fortunate, Jupiter changing your Venus, your relations, your sense of priorities and your values. Saturn changing your social status through the place that you live, let's say, through the square to the moon and so on. It's a really benefic opportunity this year for you, given that that's baked into your solar return. So that's rather lovely. Okay, Evelyn, have a fantastic move. I wish you all the best. I'm in the process of moving. I'm nomadic for the next few months, so it's a bit of a struggle because of the organizational side of it, but I do like being in motion. So you had an inclination your dad was not going to be around. Yeah. So yeah, so that is also part of the process that you'll be going through, because Jupiter later in the year will go to 21 degrees in the summer, and it will station at 21 degrees. That's on your moon. So that's both with reference to your home and family and where you live, but also, of course, your emotional nature, and perhaps something to do with your mom as well. And so you also have the once Jupiter retrogrades backwards, it goes past your natal Mars, and Jupiter will go right back to 12 degrees, or is it 11 degrees even, of Gemini. And then what that means is that the natal Mars is also part of the Jupiter Saturn square that we're going to get in December at Christmas time. So there can be some tension around that, but everybody's always a little bit tense about moving. So, okay, well, good luck with everything, Evelyn, and I will check on a new chart. We can see who else. I'm going to just kind of spin the wheel here and see who pops up. And I'm going to only be able to take somebody who's provided all the information that I need here. Right. Right. If you can't attend, I'm afraid I won't do the reading because I'd like to interact. It's just a much easier way for me to know if I'm kind of close to the target or not. Right. And so here we have Anonymous, and that's the 3rd of August, 1991. I'll just put Anon. And 3rd of August, 1991. I'd like to try and get a variety of ages as well. It's just more interesting to see how the charts manifest. Although I don't know if you were here for the last time, you remember they all ended up being the same. I don't know how that's even possible. Everybody connects in the ethers and they come together with the same energy. So that's in Cologne. And that's in Germany. There we are. Oops. All right, let's have a look here for Anonymous. 12:05. Now, I forgot, I need to know if that's AM or PM. I'm assuming since you're German, I'm going to trust that that is 12:05, 24-hour clock. So that means 12 noon and 5 minutes past. So I need to know if that's not the case because I'm going with the 12 noon time, okay? Right, thank you, Evelyn, for doing that too. So, and here we actually have a chart that has a Libra rising. I'm going to put back what I didn't put in. I put in a full moon chart. So that means that we don't have the ascendant descendant. So I'm just going to put this back now to a natal chart so we can have all the bells and whistles. Right, there we are. And I'm glad I did that because we have a south node crossing the ascendant. And so what that means is that there's a very big shift here, Anonymous. I'm not hearing from you. I do hope you're here, but there's a very big shift in your experience of life right now, and that's going to be something that carries you forward for quite some time. And in February, you had a nodal square because your natal nodes, and that would include your midheaven, were square this nodal axis that is currently in your 1st and 7th house. So you're in a very big phase of change right now. I'm not hearing from Anonymous, so I'm really hoping. Can you please let me know if you're here? Because otherwise I think I'll have to move on. We also have, I'll just continue for a moment to see if we get any response, but we also have the Jupiter going through the 9th house of higher purpose. And that's also a very, very positive aspect. So that really pulls in a lot of benefit. It's good luck. It's really cheerful. Jupiter is in a trine to natal Saturn, where Pluto is. That's less cheerful. That's a lot more hard work. But nonetheless, really, really uplifting to have Jupiter going through the 9th house, redefining what your purpose is. Saturn in the 5th can be where you don't, although it's in good dignity because it's Saturn ruling Aquarius, but it's where you don't really have an easy time expressing yourself, or you feel a little bit held back. And then Pluto crossing that is going to challenge you to take responsibility for how you want to show up as yourself. It's about transforming your creative expression or transforming your relationship to what you might consider your hobbies or what makes you happy. It's opposite Chiron, so that can be a challenge as well emotionally, perhaps based on something that comes through your sense of self and a doubt around your sense of self, or a doubt around what your future might hold. Your father may have taken up quite a lot of space in your life. Either you admired him or he just took up a whole lot of space. And so that's a tough act to follow. But I'm going to move on because I'm not seeing Anonymous in the chat, and I won't do things when people are not in the chat. So I'll leave it at that. So I hope that a little bit was helpful. If you have general questions, I would also love to hear those general questions because that's really nice for everybody. I'm going to go back. I want somebody from the 80s because we've had, oh, look at that, March 2nd. That's a great day to be born. All right. I'm going to just call you Girly just for the sake of it. So, Girly Sunday. Great day to be born. That's my birthday. Girly, the 2nd of March, 1984. I remember it well. 1984. And that's at 5:25 a.m. So that's a night chart. So that's going to be with your ruler in less fine dignity, let's say. So that can already pose some challenges. We'll have a look as we look at that. Miami FLA. Yo. All right, so we've got 2nd of March, 84, 5:25 in Miami. Excellent. And so, oh, we've got an Aquarius rising with that Pluto moving into a square with your natal Pluto. And though this is going to be a life change, because even in and of itself, Pluto square Pluto is really a major life change. It creates quite a lot of a real dynamic for change in a way that makes you super psyched. Excellent. So this is a change that really allows you to shake up a lot of the cobwebs or the dusty aspects that Pluto would have been trying to dig up in your 12th house of the unconscious. But it might require some major choices, some really big changes. Now, you do have a lot of Pisces, so that's probably not too difficult for you, although your angles are fixed. So often that can be where you hold back a little bit on making changes. You might feel a little bit shy or concerned about jumping in and changing things. And so where Pisces is helpful is that that ability to go with the flow. You're a new moon baby. You're born at the time when the moon is approaching its new phase, but within really just a couple of hours. And so you're all about creating this dynamic, but technically speaking, you're at the end of the previous cycle. So you're also here to wrap things up. And I'd say that that has a lot to do with family stuff. Because we've got Jupiter and Neptune in the 12th house, ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is in an angular house, the 10th house with Pluto and Mars. So all the malefics are hanging out in your 10th house. So there's quite a lot of pressure on you, pressure in some way that makes you feel like you can't be your soft little Pisces self. You might feel a lot of pressure to be maybe somebody's idea of success, somebody else's idea of success. And just see if Girly says, feeling that Pluto square. Yeah, I would say so. But use this as an opportunity, really, again, because they're two fixed signs. We've got Pluto already in a fixed sign, and then this is a fixed sign, first house. So use this opportunity to really boldly make some change, because it's this is not a moment for minor tweaks. You're going to have, so Saturn has already moved past your Sun. That was in March, and of course before that, Saturn was on your Mercury for quite some time, last June particularly, 2023, and then it would whiz by. It was going to whiz by in January, February. Your Moon. You lucked out there. You didn't have to have too much of a Saturn hanging out over the moon, which can be a little bit grim. But Saturn will be hanging out at the Sun, and it also is hanging out 3 times in a trine to Saturn. So you're going to have 3 trines to your natal Saturn. So you're in a phase of major change and planning that has something to do with family. And 2nd house represents family. And there's already some issue, there's some wounding here around family and childhood. And this also can be with regards to your assets and the things that you have. Jupiter is in, as I mentioned, it's the light, the ruler of the night chart is the moon. So we have that already in the 2nd house where it's happy. It's in Pisces where it can be a little bit tender, a little bit soft, and give up a little bit easier than maybe other moon placements. But then the light, the sect, not the sect light, but the sect benefic is Venus, and she's on your ascendant. And that's really helpful because Jupiter, which is the ruler of the Sun, is in a less helpful place. It's not so happy. And it can produce results like frustration or loss in different ways. So your best solution is to take everything up to the most spiritual place you can, because that Jupiter Neptune can cause some real sense of loss in the sort of material world or in the real world. And so it's a good practice to really shed as much as you can on a regular basis. I'm just checking to see if we have any girly stuff going on in the chat. So Saturn on my moon hit hard. Yeah, that was good, but because it was only probably, I don't know, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. But it can be tough if you're in a vulnerable place. And the moon, for the Pisces moon, it can be a place that's difficult. Your moon is in a sextile to Jupiter. So it can, and it's a Jupiter that's not in very strong dignity, so your emotions can be big and feel at times a little bit overwhelming. Also with Mercury there as well, you can be your own worst enemy in the sense that you might start imagining things that are more problematic than they need to be. But now this Saturn trining repeated 3 times, this trine Saturn to Saturn, it's also going to be a part of the Jupiter, which is squaring Saturn by transit. So there's going to be this square from Saturn from your second to your fifth, and then Saturn trining to your 10th. So it looks like you're really focusing on what you want to create, what you want to expand into going forward. It may have something to do with children. Do I want children? Do I not want children? You have a North Node in the 5th house. So I'd say that's part of a general pull towards your vision of family or your vision of the future for yourself. And Saturn is going to land on your sun when it comes back. So it retrogrades at 19 degrees, and then it goes all the way back to 12 degrees, and it's going to just land on your sun and kind of hover there before it starts to move forward again. And so you're going to be feeling that as well. Now that Jupiter is also going to be trining Venus on your ascendant, which is quite lovely as well. So you're going to have some really good fortune. Jupiter is in a lucky house. It's cheerful, it's social. So there is good fortune if you're interested in having children, or if you have children. Guilty as charged. What was that? I'll be coming in contact with my North Node. Yes, indeed. And what was the guilty as charged? My friends keep me stable. Good. I want to be married and have children. Yeah, never too late to be married. And you're only, what are we, 40? Yeah, so that's still feasible for sure. Don't think of your chronological age when it comes to children. Keep yourself healthy, and focus on the nurturing, focus on the maternal desire. You have Mercury with the moon, and the moon represents mothering, and Mercury is ruling your North Node in the 5th house. So don't give up on that. Where are we now? What next? I think that's what I really wanted to point out to you. So you've got you've got quite a lot of an impetus for change. You do have quite a lot of focus at the moment on what you could say in general are issues of choice. What do I choose going forward? This is the North Node in the 3rd house. There's a lot of focus on issues of the everyday. Okay. I think that's it. So I think we're covered. Now the one last thing I want to point out is that you've had a lot of activity around Chiron and the IC, and I'd like you to pull in, and also you had the opposition from Jupiter and Uranus to Mars. That's a big part of April for you. That was all of April pretty much. So notice what came through that for you, because there's so much activity through May that was at the end of Taurus there. And it's still lingering to a certain degree with the Jupiter having only just moved off that. But there's something that needs healing here. It's about your self-worth, and it's about your capacity to feel. It's about your capacity to, because something was missing at home. It was something a little bit complicated at home. I would need to talk to you personally to know more about that, and to see what you would want to talk about. But you have Neptune that is sextiling that for all of 2024 and much of 2025. And then shortly, you're going to have Uranus also coming up to 27 degrees this year. And then next year goes right past your Chiron and South Node. So focus on what you need to change in terms of your relationship to your childhood, your early home life, what felt like emotional insecurity that made you feel less valued because you might find, yeah, imagination, wild, intuitive, but very imaginative. That's good for mothering. It's good to have a good imagination when you're a mother. It helps to be creative on the fly. Your sun is squaring the nodes, and your identity, your sense of self is a part of this bigger story too. And especially as Jupiter moves past that nodal axis, it will also boost that. The square to the sun will boost you, but it is a part of your life lesson that that sun squaring the nodes. Is it squaring the nodes? Yes, it's squaring the nodes. Yes, it is. And so your identity, your sense of self is a part of this story, and perhaps healing your relationship with your own father. That is part of this story. So often, when people have difficulties connecting with a partner, there's a wounding around childhood. There's a kind of a doubt, and one of the clues is all of this Scorpio up here and House of the Father, or the parents in general, where there must have been quite a bit of strife and struggle. And so the unconscious message is, don't go there. Relationships are way too much work. Don't do it. But do it because it'll make you very happy, and your North Node is in the fifth, and therefore, having children will be a delight for you. Yeah, feeling supported, loved, and yeah, feeling your own value. Look at that, and that's the way to go forward. Okay, good luck with that. I'm going to find another chart that we can have a look at. What other year can we pull in? Let's go with the 60s baby. Vicky Howell. Vicky is from Mobile. I can never remember how you're supposed to say it. I think it's Mobile, Alabama. And that's February 9th, 1967. Okay, here we go. And that is what time? Please tell me you have a time. Yeah, 9:22. That's a guess. Okay, we're going to have to go with the guess, but ideally we want to have a pretty good time because that can throw off the ascendant and it can even throw off the moon. So if this doesn't make sense to you, I'm just going to blame the time. All right, there we go. Mobile. Oopsie, that didn't work. I'm typing up above my eye level, so it doesn't really work. I'm not in a great spot. My office is all packed up, Alabama. Never been to Alabama. All right, here we go. So Vicky, Aries rising now. So you've had a lot of activity in your first house, and including all of those eclipses for the last almost a year. So since July of 2023, that's quite dynamic. And now you've got Neptune on Saturn. So you're actually, that's quite a nice thing to have because it can actually really tune you into something extremely profound in your spiritual experience. You're going to have quite a lot of activity on that Saturn between now and 2025 and 2020, even, no, let's say by 2025, because it's over then by 2026, you're going to have the North Node crossing, you're going to have Neptune crossing, you're going to have Saturn there, you're going to have Venus there, particularly strongly in the end of January of, let's go forward, I can show you that. In the end of January of 2025, you have the North Node, Neptune, and Venus. Let's just take this a bit forward. And so you'll feel that from the last week of Jan until the first week of February. And there we go, exact on the 2nd, we have at 28 degrees, so really tightly conjoining your Saturn, we have Neptune, the North Node, and Venus. So there's something here that is deeply spiritual, very enriching shift in your life. And it's just the beginning of this change of a focus that's going through the 12th house, meaning there's something much more intimate that you're focusing on in terms of your own psychology or your spiritual life. You have a natural chart because Aries is your ascendant. And so Pisces is naturally the last sign. And so it emphasizes that quality of the Pisces. Saturn will be stationing on your Venus. So this could be something to do with actual relationship issues as well. That could be something that's calling up your ruler. Mars is in the house of relationships, so it's not a happy chappy. So there's often some struggle in relationships for you. It's not always an easy thing. And that's in a square to Jupiter, which is retrograding in Cancer in the fourth house. That Jupiter is going to see a lot of action from Mars as well. 3 times Mars is going to be passing over Jupiter. So if you might be in a position now where you're feeling like it's time to move on from something, perhaps a relationship, time to move forward into a new sense of self. You're giving up a day-to-day experience. You're giving up maybe even a job. Very deeply spiritual. Yeah, but that's perfect. Yeah. Mobile, there we go. It's Mobile, Alabama. There you go. You see, I don't have much of a southern drawl, but there we are. And so, yeah, so that's very good for you. This Saturn in the 12th can, because you have it natally, it can be very benefic, but it does show that there's quite a lot of stuff that you might be needing to deal with that comes from inherited patterns. Jupiter in itself is very happy in Cancer, but it's always a clue when you look at a planet that is retrograde and it's in a trine to Saturn. So something's off. It's kind of like everything's good, but it's just not quite exactly right. And it's in a square to Mars. So there's something just a little off. And the question is to find out what is that thing as you're coming in with that. It's already there. You see, it's not necessarily something that you are creating in your own life, although you might be reproducing that. For a woman's chart, Jupiter is the spouse, the life partner, and as Venus also is in a place of exaltation, she's in Pisces. She loves that. She's ruling the seventh. So in principle, you've got a lot of energy for relationship. It's also your money house. She's ruling your North Node in the second house. But Venus is in the house of loss. She's in the 12th house, and that's often where they don't come across in the most straightforward way. And so it's always better, as I said earlier to someone, that it's better to take the high road and work as much as possible through a spiritual life path, because that's what this kind of a chart is almost requiring. Because the day to day, if we try and deal with it on a real sort of in a normal 3-dimensional way, it's painful. It can be very difficult. That sixth house Pluto and Uranus conjunction, opposing Chiron, opposing Saturn, it can be heavy going. That's a generational aspect. No new sense of self, very much needed. Yeah. Not quite right. Searching for answers. Yeah, that's what I think that North Node conjoining. Now we've got Neptune, but later on, you're also going to have the North Node with, the Saturn with Neptune on your Saturn. So your Saturn return includes this business, this toing and froing of the North Node and Neptune. So that's a deeply spiritualizing aspect. You also had Neptune on your Chiron when you had Neptune trining Neptune. So that's also really beautiful. And we also, again, we have to include the Jupiter that's in your fourth house where Mars is going by. I want to just whiz by there and show you that before we finish up. But this is a time for you to really think in terms of what am I ready to move on from? What am I ready to shed? Jupiter is going through your third house where you'll be ripe with new ideas. It's going to be squaring all of this right off the bat. It's squaring your Mercury, which is ruling it. So let's come from now. Right off the bat, your Mercury is already being squared by Venus, and it was 2 days ago by the Sun. Then you're going to have the Venus square, the Sun is squaring Venus when they meet. So on the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. Next week, you're going to have all of this squaring your natal Venus. And that's the point at which Saturn comes back to retrograde. So pay attention to the week from, let's say, the 2nd until the 8th of June, because it's going to give you a lot of information about what needs to be changed when Saturn comes back and says, what about this now? What are you going to do? And that was already happening in March, but it went by fast. So whatever was happening in March, call it back in, try and, go back over your notes, try and figure it out. And then notice that that's going to be squared by by all of these planets this coming week, and then later on in a couple of weeks it'll be squared by Jupiter as well. So take notes of all these passages as the time is going by, because then you can really start to make these changes. Now, Jupiter is stationing retrograde at 21 degrees. That's in a square to Pluto. So you really are making some really big shifts in your life. It's got a lot to do with your sense of what you believe, what you have faith in, how you want to live every day. And this is going to change your emotional life as well as your career. You know, this is you're also a new moon baby. Somebody else was a new moon baby. This you're just now on the side of the moon that is what you call a crescent side, or the new moon phase. The last one was just on the margins of a new moon, but it was still in the closing phases before the conjunction. And there's a subtle difference because here you're about starting something new, but there can be a resistance due to a feeling of doubt. You do have Eris and both Eris and Black Moon Lilith in your first house. So you would have had last month the North Node on the ascendant. That's a big change, letting go of relationships. And in 2022, 2023, you had Chiron on the ascendant. So that may have also been a big change for you. So I'm not sure if there's any new feedback here, but you know, this is a really great year for you to just shed a lot. It's actually good for a lot of Aries to do that, especially so if you've got planets in the 12th house with Saturn going through there. It's about simplifying, and all the more so because this is a Saturn return. And Saturn is a really fantastic planet. If you get to work with Saturn, there's nothing lacking. Saturn is about how you can move away from the sense of self. And you know, for an Aries, that's a can be a tall ask. You know, no offense, Aries friends, but Aries can often just be as a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, a bit preoccupied with themselves, and that can be for good or bad. It's not like you necessarily have this big puffed up sense of self. It can also be the opposite, where you have actually a diminished sense of self, and all the more so because the sun is also in its detriment in Aquarius. So there can be a lot of doubt and a lot of heaviness around identity. But Saturn in the 12th is saying, let it all go. Come on, it's not about this. And when you get into that, it really starts to open up a channel of service to others, where you can then, rather than feeling like a donkey, like you're having to work so hard with all this energy, the Pluto Uranus in the 6th house, then you're working in service to others. And it's because you can and not because you have to. Because with this axis here, the Pisces and Virgo axis, there can be a strong potential for a victim mentality that says, or, you know, this kind of martyring thing that says, I'm only here for other people, especially with the Mars there in the 7th. There can be quite a lot of challenge in relationship, partly due to that feeling of being under obligation. So you know, with all of this energy here, the more that you can shed of the notion of identity, spiritually, sure, that's the way to go. That's it. And that will bring out the very best of this chart. It's never about us, actually. You know, there's no self, there's no me here. It's just this collection of things arising at the same moment, and that's what it is. And you've got this natal Chiron trining Neptune, and that's a deeply spiritual thing. You're going to get a conjunction from Saturn only in 2025 when you get your Saturn return. So yeah, Saturn is a great, yeah, exactly. It's a great, it offers us a sense of healthy boundaries, where you recognize that all this moping is because there's too much emphasis on the wrong version of ourselves, as the wrong image of self. But that will also come through parenting as well. That may come through an experience of challenge over parenting, or a sense of not being supported by parents. So all good, because with the Saturn return, especially the second one, I'm right in the middle of it. I've got my Saturn at 18 something of Pisces. So, you know, it's not like what's the alternative? Not living through it, I suppose, which is not great, right? So thanks very much, Vicky. So I will take another chart and we'll see who's popped in here. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind, everybody who's here, could you like the video, because it helps people see that I am live, and it also helps people find the video. Uh, so we've just done a 60s baby. Oh my goodness, look at this tiny little thing from 2001. My son is from 2001. Okay, who is that? I'm not sure what. I'm just going to say Hecate. I don't know what your name is. I'm going to say Hecate. We're going to just shorten it up there. Okay, January 23rd. You're older than my son. He's from August 2001. And that's at 5:05 p.m. Thank you for saying that. 5:05. So we do the 24-hour clock just to be absolutely crystal clear from beautiful San Diego, California. There we go. So let's have a look here. And I think I've got that. Very good. So we do have no surprises. Okay, Leo rising and a lot going on in Aquarius. My. So if there's another person here from 62, these are those kinds of charts. 61, 62, 63 was just a wild Aquarian ride. Look at all that. So where is okay, Sun is on the descendant with Black Moon, Lilith, and Neptune. So yeah, and so now we have Jupiter trining that. So you've got right off the bat this very beautiful trine going in the direction of your future. Your Jupiter return coincides with the Pluto trining Jupiter, both by transit and by birth in your natal chart. So that's pretty darn awesome. That's a new 12-year cycle with that Jupiter return, and having the Pluto trine baked into that really does show you there's a whole different level of participation in relationships, reaching out into friends groups or reaching out into client, whatever, perhaps it's about clients. You've got Venus in the eighth house of other people's money, which is quite nice. And Venus is in strong dignity in Pisces. Now you're going to have Saturn next year coming to Venus, but you'll feel it already because it gets to that 19-degree point throughout June and into July. So Saturn is also in a trine to Mars in the fourth. So perhaps there's this feeling of wanting to move on, moving away, move on in relationships. Now, I have to say, with Pluto going into the seventh, that can really, right off the bat, change radically your relationship structures and your desires for relationships. It's like all of a sudden it's like 180 degrees shift. You've had Pluto going over your moon for the last 2 years, which is, let's face it, it's not fun. And you have a moon in Capricorn in the sixth house, which I have to say is also not terribly fun either. So you're already dealing with a lot of issues of independence and having to find your own space, having to find your own self, that may have felt like you weren't really given the nurturance or given the support that you would have wanted or needed when you were smaller. Home may not have felt very safe to you. You got Mars opposing Saturn natally. Mars is very strong in the fourth house. Venus is ruling your IC in the third house, your Venus from the eighth. So there's something that's not entirely clear going on there. There's some secrets there that maybe Saturn is also going to expose a feeling of whatever that was. Venus is in this trine to Mars, and then she's in a sextile to Saturn. So there's something going on already when you're born between your parents that was not entirely comfortable, that might be triggered again, that allows you to process with this Saturn going across Venus, which it's going to linger at 19. So it's not completing until 2025, and it won't complete the sextile until 2025 either, but it will 3 times be in the trine to Mars. So that's quite significant. And that will be part of the square that we get also from Saturn to Jupiter. So that Saturn movement through the eighth is going to be squaring Jupiter there in the 11th. And that will be in an opposition to Pluto by birth. So the second square is the first square is at 19 degrees, or 17 degrees rather, and the second one is there at 14, I think it is, at Christmas time. So Pluto is playing a role in this, a big transformation and a need to be seen, which I think when you were growing up wasn't really possible for whatever reason. Um, yeah, I don't see any response, but I'm hoping you're still there. Just give me a little message if you're there, and otherwise we'll have to move on. So yeah, so this is a big period of change, a long, long, long period of change, but you're very young. So the Pluto going through the seventh is going to change how you relate to relationships in general. You may not be in a relationship, or if you are, that's going to change you profoundly, and you will not only be changed by the relationship, but the relationship itself may change. But it's for the moment, it's very positive with this beautiful trine to Jupiter. In the 11th house, you get a lot of support from friends, from a sense of positivity and optimism. Now Jupiter is retrograde, so it's like I said before, there's it's almost there. Jupiter is in its fall and it's retrograde, so there's something not quite right there about that feeling of confidence or that feeling of spirituality. So I think this could be your opportunity with the Pluto trining that to really grow in faith and live the life that you want. Because there seems to be something here that feels like a bit of a blockage, may have come from your parental situation or an absence of parents. So I don't see any comments here, so I'm going to leave it and we'll take another chart and we will find hopefully somebody from the 70s. Surely there's somebody from the 70s here. What happens to all our 70s people? It's very rare actually that I get somebody from the oh, look at that. Okay, Bridget. There we go. Have we got everything we need? Yes, we do. Yeah, okay. Is that Lynn, Massachusetts? Is that the name? All right, I'm going to take it as such. We'll find out. Bridget, two T's. And that's July 10th, 1974. 42 a.m. in Lynn. We'll find out. Long names. Massachusetts. I never get it right. Massachusetts, two S's, all these T's. Massachusetts. Okay, let's see. Let's try and find it here. Massachusetts. Yes. Lynn. Oh, there we go. So there is a place called Lynn, Massachusetts. I just learned. And here we go. Voila. Super. Okay, Bridget, I hope you're here. Can you just let me know if you're here? Just pop a word in there and we'll find out. Now, here's another Libra rising, lots of those. And so there's a lot going on here in the first house, obviously, because we've got the nodal axis there playing up very strongly. So that Uranus at 23 degrees with the Chiron at 24 would have been heavily emphasized during the March and April period where Mercury, remember, Mercury was going back and forth over that 23, 24 degree point. And Eris was there too. Eris is technically still there, and you're coming back now to start, well, let's say you're pushing into your Chiron return. So we get Chiron, Chiron returning between the ages of 49 and 51, 50, 51, depending. Thanks, Bridget. Okay, you're there. So that's already something quite significant in the chart. Now you're getting that Chiron return along with a lot of activity around Chiron. So there's quite a lot of prodding around your level of confidence in relationships or yourself and how you engage in relationships. So there's part of you that doesn't want to be in relationships. Part of you is like, can't be bothered. Or the Pluto on the ascendant makes you a bit doubtful, and it can make you feel like you don't really trust. You have to kind of maybe feel that you need to control things in relationships because for whatever reason that felt a little risky to not. And that Pluto is in a square to Mercury and your midheaven as well. It's also technically in a square to Saturn as well. So home may have felt that way as well, a bit controlling when you were growing up. So the family, the opinion of your family and their desires and their sense of what was important would have been, it may have felt like a bit of a block. And you have the moon in the 6th in Pisces. So you may have also felt there's quite a lot of pressure to do stuff for other people, to be there for other people, which would explain that Chiron there in the 7th house. So there's a lot of that now that's being healed over the last 2 years. You've had Neptune going back and forth over your moon, which can feel super wobbly because Neptune and the moon is difficult to get a grasp on things. But you can also really up your spiritual game. Just don't fall into the trap of feeling sorry for yourself because that the Jupiter moon conjunction, Jupiter retrograde, although it's a very strong Jupiter in principle in Pisces, it's showing that there's doubt here. There's a little doubt, and it's in a square to Venus, square to the nodes. So it's a big part of your story, and you're getting Saturn stationing in a square to the nodes. So the way that you show up in your everyday life, the way that you care for yourself, the way that you operate in terms of what other people might expect from you is very much being reconfigured this year, both from the house of relationship as well as the house of everyday life. And then Jupiter itself is marching into your ninth house in a lovely trine to your ascendant, which is also being trined. So you now have a grand trine between Jupiter, your ascendant, and Pluto in the trinal houses, the first, fifth, and ninth, which are very fortunate. And that's a lovely kickoff to this particular period, and it's going to be a nice boost for that Chiron return. So with the trine, you're going to get you'll start to feel that very powerfully in 2025, certainly in 2026 when it's exact, and then 27 again when Pluto is then in a trine to Pluto. So a really good time to make big changes in your life based on what you would like to see, how you want to show up, what you desire going forward. So the nodal axis is just was square your sun, and that would have been 2 months ago. You would have had that quite powerfully along with the eclipses. So when the nodes are squaring the sun, that's a big message of change as well. So you can go back to 2005 for a similar period of time around this change, around this kind of change. It could be a change of social status, or it could be a change of work. It can be a change in terms of the relationship you might have with your parents. Yeah, and then the nodes will be over so the south node will be crossing your Pluto and then your ascendant November and December. You'll probably already feel that in October, November, December, and that's putting then the square on Mercury and then your midheaven. And so also Saturn, don't forget Saturn. So the nodes are actually going to be squaring your natal Saturn, while Saturn is squaring your natal nodes. Wow. So you're really going to make some changes here. This is a big year, 2024. That nodal square to Saturn will be the summer. That's kind of like July, August, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so you'll be feeling that already starting in July really strongly, and then right into August. Maybe also the end of June. So soon, within a month, you're going to feel that square to Saturn. You might already be feeling that. You're certainly already feeling the Saturn as it's building up, because that slower movement of Saturn is also affecting your Jupiter. So you're really up for a big change now in the year ahead. Let me see if we got any feedback. Not sure. Okay, so yeah, so this is a really big shift that you're making here. It's big changes in your own sense of self. And when the South Node crosses Pluto, and especially as it's squaring Mercury, squaring your midheaven on the ascendant, this is really about letting go of self-defeating habits. It's things that you're doing that are unhelpful. Again, it might have something to do with controlling out of fear, or keeping people at a distance out of fear, or over giving, and that Pisces moon can be a part of that, and that can include in your work as well. Or being indecisive, where that can put the onus on somebody else, and that can leave other people making decisions for you, like foisting choices onto other people. You're a good people person, because you've got Venus on the South Node, so you're social, like you already know how to do relationships, but it's more about how you are. Do you factor into relationships is the question. Do you factor yourself, let's say, into relationships? So, okay, amazing and spot on. Well, I guess then that is that. All right. So, yeah, so you got your homework then. You see, there's a lot going on here that is basically long-term changes that you're forecasting into 2024 through lots and lots of big shifts that you're going to have to make better choices for yourself, let's say. Oh, and that Jupiter is stationing on your south node. It will be going back and forth over your south node and Venus, and in opposition to the north node that it rules. So that will be another option, another opportunity to have this real clarity around a new purpose or a new sense of direction. Jupiter and Mars in August are going to be conjunct Venus. Just to add the icing on the cake, it's at the time that it is squaring your Jupiter and squaring Saturn. So get your skates on. That is going to be quite the summer. Your birthday is going to be pretty charged. And you're also going to have Mars. I'll really quickly skim over this. You're going to have Mars going through your 10th house. And it will be, of course, crossing September or early September is going to be crossing all of these planets. So September is going to be very much about ambition, new drive, new goals in your career. You don't get your Mars return until next spring because Mars only gets to 6 degrees. It's going to begin a trine to Neptune, but it already includes a trine to your descendant and a sextile to your ascendant and Pluto. Oh my gosh, I could go on forever. This is a big chart. Things are going to shift for you, Bridget. This is quite a big year. Be courageous. Be courageous. And by December, the South Node is crossing your ascendant. By January, it's moving into the 12th and 6th axis. So let's see, who else have we got? So I just want to find maybe an old fogey. Who can we find? Anybody from the 50s here? Is there anybody from the 50s? Okay, we've got all right, we'll take Micheline. I'm seeing from Brighton. So just because it's different, it's 64, so 10 years younger than Bridget. So whippersnapper. There we go. A new chart for Micheline. 1107. Ooh, that's tricky. I'm really hoping, Micheline, that is July. I'm going to count on that being July. You please tell me urgently in the comments because I need to know when there's any doubt whether it's actually the month or the year that you're referring to, rather the month or the day that you're referring to. So could you clarify the date and the month there for me? Just to be sure, so is it 11 July or is it November 7th? Hang on, now I've lost you again. Whoops. Oh, Micheline, can you give me your time of birth again when you do that? Because I need to know. July, yes. Okay, Micheline, just throw up your time of birth because I can't find your first message, if you would, please. And then we can go. So that's in Brighton. So yeah, 11th July. I just need the time. Until the United Kingdom. 30. No, that's not Micheline. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and try and find it. Micheline, I need your time. There we go. 1:40 a.m. There we are. So 01:40. So there's another night chart coming up. Right. Alrighty, so Jupiter is moving through. Oh, wait, we've got to come back to now. Jupiter is moving through your second house. You've just had quite a lot of action in your in the area of your ascendant, and your natal Jupiter return was already just a couple of months ago as well. So your Jupiter return factored into the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is pretty cool. That's a lovely way to start the new Jupiter cycle. And that also means that it was pretty much happening at the right in between your Jupiter and ascendant. So there's a lot of new prospects for you. It's in a trine to your midheaven as well. all this activity for the last 2 or 3 weeks has been really focusing on your natal Jupiter and your natal ascendant. So you must be full of all kinds of optimism and ideas and plans for the future. Big picture visions for your future. Jupiter rules your 11th house, where we find Saturn, and Saturn is sextiling Jupiter right now. And as we speak, Mercury is right there while Saturn is sextiling Mercury. It has been for the last couple of days. It was exact earlier, no, yesterday. And so that Saturn sextiling Jupiter is very clarifying as well in terms of your future. And Saturn on Chiron will have some kind of consequence with reference to how you feel you fit in, or how you feel you get to decide what your future is, because you have maybe a strong sense of, however generous you are, however kind you certainly seem to be, there's a sense that you don't really fit in, that it was difficult fitting in. And that Saturn is also, strongly squaring Mars and Venus right now, where it will continue to square Mars and Venus for some time. And it's exactly in a trine to your sun. So there's a lot of shape-shifting around your sense of your self-worth right at the moment. That would have happened. And if you go back to 1995, this is where Saturn was at that point. So 1995 would have brought you whatever this dilemma is about. Saturn has just completed a trine to Neptune. So maybe it's about being let down in friendships. There's something that might be here that makes you doubt friendships. Neptune is also in a trine, or has been for the last 2 years, let's say, trining your descendant. And it's, of course, sextiling the ascendant. It's moving beyond that now and trining the IC and sextiling the midheaven. So there's maybe something to do with a marriage where there's a bit of, I don't know, frustration, or, the thing is, when people have Neptune in the seventh, and especially Neptune in Scorpio, there you can have a tendency to be quite, overgiving. You've got a sun in Cancer as well, so there's a lot of empathy, sympathy for other people. That Jupiter on the ascendant is quite generous as well. So you might have this feeling, let's see, is Micheline there? Yeah, let me know if I'm getting close, Micheline. You might have this feeling that you seem to always be responsible for everybody else's mess. And so that's where this year can really benefit you with the Saturn on Chiron, where you start to get clear who's in and who's out of your French circle, your friends, or your social circle, or who you need to spend time with. Saturn squaring Mars is quite strong. It brings you a lot of confidence, and it brings you a real determination. And Saturn trining the sun is very strong in terms of helping you with your own identity to establish a stronger vision for yourself, or a stronger career place, a sense of career. Now, you're from 64, so you might even be thinking about early retirement, as Pluto has crossed already for the last 3 years. It's been crossing your midheaven. If you're lucky enough to take early retirement, Pluto was trining your ascendant and crossing your midheaven for forever. And now it's in your 10th house. So that's changing a lot of how you're going to be showing up in the world. So even if you're not working, 10th house is whatever you're doing out in the world, So Micheline, I know I pestered you a lot about the details of your chart. Just let me know if I'm kind of close, hot, warm, cold. And so yeah, with the Uranus stations retrograde at 27 degrees, which means it's stationing retrograde on your ascendant and in a trine to the midheaven. So you're in a very big period of change, a big period of personal evolution. And a lot more focus is going to shift to what it is that you want to do, based on money, perhaps issues around money, things that you need to sort out around money. Venus is retrograde in Gemini, retrograding back into Mars. So it looks like you need to take some action around money. There might be some issues around childhood or around siblings with regards to money. Do think about this too much. Yeah, so you want to, it's about factoring yourself in. You know, with Uranus, this is the once off, once in a lifetime transit of Uranus going across the ascendant. You have permission to change. You have permission to be different and to embrace your difference and embrace yourself in another way, you know, in a way that is much more honoring yourself. You again, there can be this feeling of always having to be there for other people. The Chiron in Pisces, especially retrograde, and then the Saturn in Pisces retrograde, there can just be this big feeling of disappointment. It's like, things are not working out the way I would have wanted, maybe even a disappointment in the choices that you've made over time. Now with Saturn there, it's kind of like saying, no, 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 it doesn't have to be like that. The same energy where Chiron can produce a feeling of lack or disappointment or not fitting in, not belonging, can actually be a source of healing, a source of looking out for others in a way that's constructive, that doesn't have to minimize you, you know, it doesn't have to take away from you. So this is quite a big year for you as well. And that Pluto is opposing Mercury. Pluto opposing Mercury is incredibly solid. It really brings in a sense of gravitas. It brings in a sense of crystal clear honesty. Mercury, moon in the fourth house can be, it might be very emotional, or it might be even very attached to one's upbringing or one's way, one's, let's say, version of the story, and that can be an obstacle to change. Actually, I don't think that you already have the answers. Your your mom may have. Yeah, it's hard to know. I would rather talk to you about it, but let's say home life may not have been very stable. Your mom may have not been able to really give you this kind of affection or a sense of nurturance, and so you doubt you're even perhaps even that you doubt that you were even wanted, perhaps. I don't know. I would need to talk to you directly, and I don't mean that, of course, by, you know, they didn't want you, but rather that they didn't want a baby. We changed, sold my house. There you go. Money going into a bank, which I didn't want to happen. Oops. Okay. Challenge for me has always been, what do I want for me? Exactly, because I think there is a sense of not having been desired. And again, it's not personal. It's that the circumstances were such that a child was not really in the plan. The parents are not really super getting along in this moment, in the moment around your birth, and home feels unstable. So there is this doubt that's kind of instilled, and it might be around a sibling or some other issue around a sibling. Mom stuff, very true. She was going to give me to her sister. My goodness. Well, that explains this then, doesn't it? There's Venus, that's literally you, going to Mars in Gemini. So there's some separation. There was something here about siblings that shows up in a way that's not easy, that Venus retrograde in Gemini. And it's in a square to Chiron, so it's not easy, not comfortable. I think that's going to be a part of your healing story in 2024. Well, Jupiter is going to be right there. Jupiter does represent not only, in our sense, a higher vision for things, and that can bring you a much better vision of life, but it also represents children in general, so it can pull all of that story back in. And you've got Chiron. For a while, it has been squaring your sun, and so there's some issue around identity and even around the father. So, all right, I'm going to have to leave it there. Lots more. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I'm going to try and find maybe another from who can we find here? We've got someone from. I want to find somebody younger now. Want some young blood. Here we go. Okay, Shelley, we've got the 2nd of January, 1998. Here are all the men. They're all sleeping. January 2nd, thanks for spelling that out, 1998 at 2:41, so another night chart. Fort Myers in Florida, okay. Do I need to spell it out? I'm not sure. Do I say FT or I don't know. We'll find out. No. Okay. Right, so 2nd of Jan, 1998 to 41 in Fort Myers, Florida. I think we're good. All right, and that gives us a Scorpio rising, very exciting, with a Chiron on the ascendant, squaring the midheaven. Right, and so Jupiter is coming in now to your 8th house, trining all this 4th house stuff here, bringing in an enormous amount of stuff from your family, from your lineage, from what has gone before you. There's some family story here that you're going to learn with that Jupiter going through the 8th. It's going to be about understanding, finding a deeper understanding of what was going on before you came here. So there's a whole lot going on here around issues of security in your early life, between your parents or in general, issues of security. And so this might be what that Pluto going through the 4th is going to be for you. It's now trining Jupiter in the 8th, which is about other people's money. That Jupiter in the 8th is ruled by Mercury out of dignity in the 2nd house. So there is an issue here with money. Mercury is going to be opposed by the stationing Jupiter, and it's going to be squared by the stationing Saturn. So Mercury, when Jupiter, let's move it along here, when Jupiter gets to 19, it is going to be in opposition to Mercury for quite some time. So basically, by the beginning of September, Jupiter is getting up to 21, and then in beginning of October, it's going to turn around. But that's in a strong opposition to your natal Mercury. They're swapping places. This is called a mutual reception. Oh, hey ho, look at that. Venus is on Pluto at the time. So October, something big about money is going to be a big feature of the 2nd half of this year. And Saturn itself, as we saw, is already squaring Mercury from the 5th house of your perhaps children, or your creative expression, or issues around business. If you run a business, you do have Mercury in the 2nd, you have the Sun in the 3rd, and then that South Node ruled by Jupiter in the 5th house. Jupiter, however, I'm wondering if you have children. You're too young, probably. So, do you have children? No. No, you're like my little bit younger than my daughter. Do you have children? If you don't have children, that might be something that you're contemplating, or that might be happening right now for you. With Saturn going through the 5th, it can be that you're having children. So let me know. Give me a little sign, Shelley, if you are indeed a mom. Because that factors into how I'm interpreting this, because it can be there's a mutual reception here between that Mercury and the Jupiter going through the 8th, which can be something to do with marriage. I don't know. Where are you on that timeline? I don't know. I need to know more before I pursue this line, because otherwise I'm talking nonsense. But anyway, so Saturn going through the 5th house can be something about becoming responsible for children. Saturn has been in a trine to the ascendant in February, and now it will trine Chiron 3 times. So your sense of self and any sense of lack and sense of trust, especially because there's a big thing here about security, trust, security, material security, and so on. It's a big issue here. As you were growing up, it's a big issue. And it's being triggered now with that Saturn, where you might be deciding you want to create your own business. If it's not about children, you might be deciding you're ready to explore business, or no, you don't have children. I'm assuming that no is no, I don't have children. So this could be something to do with business. And what's interesting about Saturn going through the 5th is often we take something that we really enjoy and we turn it into a business, a money-making venture. You could work from home with that sense because you've got the moon in the fourth and you've got Jupiter, which is ruling the fifth in your fourth house of home. So that could be a very good use of that. Mars is on the IC and it's squaring the ascendant. And what is going on? Why did I pull that up? No, we'll leave that for now because I think it's past anyway. It's no longer going to be bothered by. Yes, it will. Yeah. No, I see. Yeah, so Saturn itself comes back to 12 degrees, which is when it retrogrades all the way back to 12 degrees, it's going to be your south node. So there is something that you need to shed in terms of how you reach out into self-expression so that you can grow towards some vision of your future that might be a little different to what you imagined before. So Saturn is going to get you sorted, sorted in terms of what it is that you want to create, what you might need to learn in order to create. Just as we're doing this, the moon is on Mars. There's something bothering you about home, and Pluto is on Venus. So you might be also worried about money, or there's some issue around relationship that feels like there's something that needs adjustment. Venus is ruling your house of relationship and Pluto, and she's there in the fourth. She's very close to Neptune. So again, there may be some issues of disappointment around relationship or a feeling of finding it difficult to reach out in relationships. So I would need to speak to you to know more about that. You're having your Neptune sextile, which is an opportunity also to reflect on where you are perhaps not seeing things terribly clearly, or where it might be that you need to take things from a more philosophical or more spiritual place. And that's very helpful to have, in that case, to have the South Node going through the 12th house. That allows you to let go of things, let go of issues around relationships, let go of certain ways of showing up so that you can become more pragmatic. Now, the North Node is almost on your Saturn by transit. North Node on Saturn is learning to take responsibility for something. And that is in a building to a square to your sun. So this is going to be quite a dramatic year for you as well. Over the next 2 months, you'll be feeling that nodal square, the sun, June and July. Certainly now until June and through June rather, and maybe a little bit in July. So change of career, change of goals for you in your everyday life. I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll take one more and see who we've got. Okay, Shelley, good luck with all of that. I'll see who we can take from perhaps. Oh, you're very welcome, Bridget. That's lovely. Thank you. All right, we've got Nandini here, September 8th, 1966 in New Delhi. Okay, thank you. We'll take a 66 baby and go back and forth. Let's see if we can find a new one from the 70s. I'll do one more if we can find somebody from the 70s. So if you're from the 70s, rock up into the comments section. There we go, the 8th. Well, either that means that everybody from the 70s is super happy, although I don't think so. I do get quite a few clients coming from the 70s. 3:10 p.m. There we go. 15:10 in Delhi, one of my favorite cities. I go there nearly every year. All right, New Delhi, India. And voila, here we go. So Nandini, let's see. So you've also had a lot of action here on that North Node of yours in the 5th house. You're going towards a sense of creative expression from yourself, coming away from perhaps a sense of deception or loss or disappointment in terms of your goals or your dreams or visions of, connecting in friendships, for example. And now with a lot of this activity, you've just now had Mercury going across your North Node, but 2 weeks ago you also had a lot of busyness there. Venus was there, and then Jupiter was there earlier in the spring, and then the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Oh, and also Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what was going on with you in July and August of 2022, because that was really impacting you on your north node. So that's been, Uranus has been going back and forth over that point. It's stationed with Mars and the north node on your north node. So what changed? Let me know there. That was a trine to Pluto, a trine to Uranus, and a trine to your sun. That must have been something. Um, yeah, let me know if there is something that showed up in the summer of 2022, Nandini. And because now, whatever that is, it's being, there's a reflection of that in all of these transits that you've had over your North Node. Currently, of course, we've got Pluto moving through your second house, which can be something to do with family, and Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun are moving through your sixth house where you have your moon. And that sixth house moon often can tell me that there's a sense of always having to be there for other people. It's squaring Pluto, squaring, exactly squaring Uranus. So it looks like your mom was not able to be there for you. Again, that might come through this feeling of disappointment, feeling of uh, not being able to rely on other people. And so there's this, you will get quite a lot of emphasis on that moon, where you might need to re-establish what you feel guilty for. I find often with the Capricorn rising, there's an inherent sense of guilt. It's almost like it's like, I don't know what I did, but I feel guilty about it. I feel bad about it. Your mom passed in January 2022. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And so falling out with your brother in April of 23. Okay, we do have challenges here in the House of Siblings. We've got Chiron and Saturn. I don't think it was ever easy with your brother. Um, right. Yeah. Okay. True about your mom. So she may have also been under duress in some way. That your parents didn't really get along, I'd say. They didn't really connect. And so she may have felt more dutiful, under obligation. There was some challenge there in the marriage, at least around the time that you were born. And so here, I think this issue with the brother is going to be really very big in 2025. But already this year and last year, you've had, and even the year before, you've had Neptune going across your Chiron and Saturn. So that might be softening whatever you're softening up, or you're perhaps even giving up about whatever this issue is with your brother. That's in a trine to Jupiter as well. So that, generally speaking, is quite good for a marriage partner, especially as it's a strong Jupiter in good dignity. So hopefully you've got somebody by your side that's helpful, that supports you as well. But that's in a trine to Chiron, and so it comes right back to something that was going on. True about the mother. Yes, it wasn't. So I'd say with the brother, is that what you're responding to? You don't speak to him anymore. Oh, yeah. Okay. That I suspect is going to be a big part of your Saturn return, because we have two things that are really relevant here. You've got Saturn stopping in opposition to Uranus and Pluto. Now, Saturn is currently in opposition to Pluto, and three times Saturn is going to go back and forth over your very strong Mercury and Sun, and then Pluto and Uranus in your ninth house. This is with respect to your father. There's something here around the father that's not terribly comfortable, and that creates a square to the moon. So there's a lot of emotional churning going on this year that you'll need to, you might need to find support, that you can find somebody that you can really lean on, because it looks like you're the one everybody leans on in this chart. So if you don't have somebody that you can lean on, try and find somebody that you can, just feel that you've got support, because again, that feels like what is lacking in the chart. So yeah, and that Saturn return, by the time it does come back, it's going to be accompanied by, and this is pretty awesome, in the beginning of February, end of January and beginning of February of 2025, you're going to have Venus, Neptune, and the North Node crossing that Saturn. It's a lot of activity this year on that Saturn. So I do think that there's hope for recovering something, for healing that. healing a sense of that because it is in a trine to Jupiter. So there's a potential there for healing. Jupiter is going through the house of your sixth house of everyday obligations, where you're going to find the moon. It's going to go back and forth over the moon again. And then that Pluto is going through the house of family and your values and money. It looks like there's a struggle. There's some kind of issues around other people's money. It's not necessarily very clear for you if you have, issues around money. Shared resources are not so easy for you. But this is a good opportunity here. We've got the North Node, Neptune, and Venus. Look at that, all packed in together on top of your natal Saturn there. That's really, really lovely because I do think that's going to bring you a lot of optimism and change and a capacity to see this whole thing differently. And it's happening at the same time that Saturn will be making its third pass in a trine to the South Node and Neptune, which is very good in terms of what you have faith in, what you believe. And that creates also, again, the third time, a square to the moon. So you're reestablishing a sense of yourself, your own personal identity. So the Jupiter is helping. The Saturn square the moon can make you feel lonely, can make you feel kind of isolated. It can make it feel like hard work, whatever home represents. It feels like hard work, or that you're missing your mom because the moon represents mom as well. But Jupiter there can bring in some really beautiful aspects. It can bring in some opportunity to see things in a new light and have a new sense of that whole vision of what home is for you. With your North Node in Taurus, I need to lean on me. Well, don't say need, because the whole point is that you have the capacity to ask for help. So the North Node in the fifth is actually more about expressing what is true about yourself. It's about living through your own truth and being self-expressed without anybody else telling you how that needs to look. With nobody else's opinion gets a vote, really. And it's really about recognizing that there's been a lot of influence coming from society. Now, you're Indian, from the 60s. That's a pretty safe guess. A lot of, because 11th house, social influence, and it's not helpful. I think your father was quite a domineering figure as well, not an easy person, perhaps extremely critical. Not terribly easy. And so that puts a lot of pressure on what you feel is possible for you. That Pluto in a trine to the North Node requires you to take the reins, as it were, and to make something of that. So go back to the summer of 2022 and see what was the impulse there, because it's beyond what this is about. It's not only about your mom. Yeah, good. So you started doing that since 2018. That's great, because that is when Uranus crossed your IC and opposed your midheaven. So that's very good. So you see, you just need to keep growing in that direction, and you're going to have Chiron moving through that fifth house. So that's also going to be an opportunity for you to outgrow these patterns of doubt around how you can express yourself. That Chiron it's 2 years down the road, so don't worry now, got enough to deal with. But the Chiron is there coming through, going to be on the IC to heal your childhood, heal your past. Pluto is in a square to the IC, squaring your midheaven from that place of family and home. So you are changing yourself in a very profound way. Think your midheaven is in the 11th house, so you've got to think of how you show up in the world based on what it is that you want to create in your life. Yeah, dominating. Yeah, your father would have been quite a figure. Yeah, divorced your husband. So now I'd say with the Pluto squaring your midheaven, that's going to be a feeling of, okay, now what's next? Because there's something here with Pluto going through the house of money and family and everything that supports you. Finding your voice. The second house is your voice, quite literally. Finding your own creativity. That's another aspect of the second. And that's a fantastic way, by the way, of healing this Saturn and Chiron, where there kind of been a lot of doubt around your capacities, your early life education, maybe some doubt around your knowledge or your skills that may have kept you back. This could be another beautiful way to use that North Node, Venus, and Neptune on Saturn, where you say, you know what, I'm actually a pretty darn good artist. And then that is the North Node in Taurus, where you start to say, you know what, I'm going to create for the sake of it because I find pleasure in creating. And that's the North Node in the fifth. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to take one last chart and then I'm going to have to take the dog out for a walk. And I'm going to try and find, oh, look at that, Blankenberg, Belgium. There we go. We'll find somebody from the 70s. We found them. Right, so Jules. Let's take doodly-doo. Right, so here we are, 18. So that's around the time that we had those eclipses. So something very interesting is happening for you already. We know that 1979. And this is at 2 p.m. Now you're rounding that time, so I'm going to take it on faith, Jules, that is a good time and not just a guesstimate of your birth time, Blankenberg. And okay, here we go. All right, so let's check that again. So 2 p.m., 14th of April. Nope, got it wrong. Hang on, it's the 18th of April. I'm getting a little tired. Okay, here we go. 18th of April, 2 p.m. in Blankenberg. And we're good. All right. Let's see, what do we get here? Oh, a nice Leo rising. We haven't had one of those. We'll go right back to now. So Jupiter is going into, oh, yes, we did have a Leo rising, but it's okay. And so Jupiter is going into the 11th, which is a wonderful place. We already had that a little while ago where Jupiter goes into the 11th and you get really great support from people in high places, from people of, so no exact time. So yeah, okay, well, I'm going to trust you on this one. We're going to say 2. And because the ascendant falls in the middle of the chart, I'm not going to freak out about a few minutes on either side, assuming it's not like hours and hours away. But what's lovely about this is that you have this Jupiter energy moving into your 11th house of the future, of hope and whatever feels like it's hopeful for you. And that's in a really nice sextile to Mercury. And then later on, it's going to be sextiling your Mars in the house of your purpose. So there's something that you become more clear about. Your ruler, the sun is in the 9th house where it's very happy. That's the joy of the sun. And it's also in its exaltation because the sun loves to be in Aries. So already we get this feeling that you're ready to, express your life, live your life in a way that feels bigger than the average. So you're probably not living in Blankenberg anymore, I'd say. Or if you are, you don't want to live there anymore because you got Jupiter in the 12th and all this in the 9th that says, I'm out of here. I have bigger plans. And so although, Jupiter in Cancer is pretty good family, not that you've got any issues there, but not necessarily. But your home life was unstable already. We see that with the Uranus, so there may be some issue anyway about home in the greater sense of the word, and that's squaring your ascendant. So you seem to have wanderlust. And now with Jupiter in the 11th, that's going to expand your notion of what you want to do. And maybe with that trine to Pluto going in the 7th, that is also going to create a sense of with whom do I want to do it? Because now it looks like there's a big question. Pluto is squaring your midheaven, it's squaring your IC, and it's trining that Jupiter. So there's a lot of stuff that is ready for change. It's in a sextile to your Mercury, and it's just coming out of the square to the sun. So you might have already been changing your career and so on. And you're getting one last opposition from Jupiter to Pluto, September, October, and most of November this year. Then it's done. But the last 2 years have been all about this opposition to Jupiter, changing your vision. So Jules, let me know if that's true, if you're changing your career or changing a relationship because it's time to go in a different direction. This is a lot of change that you're going to be moving through. You've also had the South Node 2 months ago, exactly on your Pluto. That it's still there, technically speaking. It's still kind of within an orb. The South Node on Pluto, and then the North Node is on Eris. Your sun has seen a lot of activity from the North Node. That would have been back in 2023, remember those eclipses that we had in April 2023 and the first week of May, and that was all happening around your Chiron, midheaven, and Sun. So that's the process that had been underway very strongly, and then Jupiter crossed that point a year ago, May of 2023. Jupiter was on your midheaven Chiron as well. So in a square to Jupiter. So you got big plans. What is going on here? I don't know. I need to hear from you to know what what you're up to, because it looks like it's quite the shift going on here. And Saturn has is going to pass 3 times over your south node. It already has made its first pass over the south node. It's stationed at your Saturn opposition last June. So June 2023 was Saturn opposing Saturn. So there's maybe marriage issues. Saturn is ruling your house of marriage issues or relationship issues, and in general, maybe something to do with work, partnerships, otherwise, because there's some tension here with money. Saturn is retrograde in Virgo, not generally very happy in Virgo. And it's in a trine to Chiron. So there may be some issues around work or money or feeling your own self-worth, feeling your worth. The moon again in the moon is in its fall in Capricorn in the 6th house. So I think there are some issues here around confidence or around a feeling of worth that might be impacting you, now when you struggle, it goes right back to that early wounding. The moon is also in a trine to Chiron. Maybe your mom was not happy, not a happy chappy when you were born. She may have been struggling herself with self-worth. I had a relationship with a Cameroonian man, and I have a baby with him, and he left me when I was 4 months pregnant. Oh my dear. And your son is 16 months. You've got a toddler now. Okay, now he wants to take me and my son to his homeland to visit. Okay. I would say this is a wee bit tricky right now. I would rather see you in person to go into bigger detail, but I think this could be something that is not really good right now. I don't like the fact that Pluto is creating so much tension around your midheaven and your IC, which represents home, and it's also opposing Jupiter, which represents the partner, the life partner. So I'm going to just say, for now, don't go right now. Wait till your baby's older. I'd rather see you personally to talk about that, but I would just say off the bat, I'd say leave it for now. For certainly for 2024, don't go. Saturn will be crossing Venus in 2025. That will give you much more clarity. Venus has been over the last 2 years. So basically, since you had this relationship, Neptune was on Venus. I don't think you were seeing things terribly clearly, and I'm being very outspoken, but I feel this is very important. Saturn is in a trine to Uranus, which is in the house of home. And so it's stirring up this feeling of being perhaps left with a lot of responsibility and this feeling of insecurity around home, which is, by the way, already there from your childhood. So I think you just kind of just take a breath and hang back a little bit. Don't go in 2024, okay? And if you have the opportunity to get a reading, then we can talk about more in person. But I think that is really the basic message I would leave you with. This is not a great transit for this kind of situation. So you want to go deep inside, especially when Pluto goes back in the 6th house. It'll do its last opposition to Jupiter. It'll be just again in that square. Your sun is almost at 27 of Aries. It's anyway squaring the midheaven. So sit with that for a while. Sit with your new identity, your sense of what your responsibilities are right now, and just take a good, deep breath and be there for your child. And then later on, as the baby gets older, it's anyway more interesting than to bring the child. find more clarity because Saturn going through the eighth house, Neptune going through the eighth house, I'm not sure things are very clear there. So just hang back a bit, okay? In 2025, you might find things mixing up and then you might find more clarity there, but not now. All right. I'm going to leave it at that, everybody. I've got to take the dog out. She hasn't been out for hours. Poor thing. And so I am signing off. It was lovely to see all of you here. And I wish you a wonderful spring with this real springy step with Jupiter there in Gemini and lots of love. I won't be seeing you much. I'll try and post things as much as I can in the next few weeks, but I'm super busy and I'm going to Ireland. I'm doing a lot of traveling. I've got Jupiter in my 12th house. And I'm doing a lot of traveling. I'll see Roisin. I'll be seeing some of you at the retreat. There's 14 of us there, which is lovely. And I will see you perhaps with Roisin on a video from Ireland. The two of us actually in the same room, which is fun. And if not, I will see you anon. Have a lovely new moon in Gemini. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll do one for the new moon on the day of the new moon. That's 6th, 7th of June. So have a wonderful spring, and I wish you lots of love. Thanks for being here.